Gaelic football above the ground. Players advance the football up the field with a combination of carrying, bouncing, kicking, hand passing, and soloing. In the game, two types of scores are possible: points and goals. A point is awarded for kicking or hand passing the ball over the crossbar, signaled by the umpire raising a white flag. A goal is awarded for kicking the ball under the crossbar into the net, signaled by the umpire raising a green flag. Positions in Gaelic football are similar to those in other football codes, and comprise 1 goalkeeper, 6 backs, 2 midfielders, and 6 forwards, with a variable number of substitutes. Gaelic football is one of 4 sports controlled by the Gaelic Athletic Association, the largest sporting organisation in Ireland, along with hurling and camogie. Gaelic football is one of the few remaining strictly amateur sports in the world, with players, coaches, and managers prohibited from receiving any form of payment. Gaelic football is mainly played on the island of Ireland, although units of the association exist in Great Britain, mainland Europe, North America, Africa, Asia, and Australia. The final of the All-Ireland Senior Championship, held every year at Croke Park, Dublin, draws crowds of more than 80,000 people. Outside Ireland, football is mainly played among members of the Irish diaspora. Gaelic Park in New York City is the largest purpose-built Gaelic sports venue outside Ireland. 3 major football competitions operate throughout the year. The National Football League and the All-Ireland Senior Championship operate on an inter-county basis, while the All-Ireland Club Championship is contested by individual clubs. The All-Ireland Senior Championship is considered the most prestigious event in Gaelic football. Under the auspices of the GAA, Gaelic football is a male-only sport. However, the related sport of ladies Gaelic football is governed by the Ladies Gaelic Football Association. Similarities between Gaelic football and Australian rules football have allowed the development of international rules football, a hybrid sport, and a series of test matches has been held regularly since 1998. While Gaelic football as it is known today dates back to the late 19th century, various kinds of football were played in Ireland before this time. The first legal reference to football in Ireland was in 1308, when John McCrocken, a spectator at a football game at Novum Castrum de Lung, was charged with accidentally stabbing a player named William Bernard. A field near Newcastle, South Dublin is still known as the football field. The Statute of Galway of 1527 allowed the playing of football and archery but banned hockey, the hurling of a little ball with sticks or staves, as well as other sports. By the 17th century, the situation had changed considerably. The games had grown in popularity and were widely played. This was due to the patronage of the gentry. Now instead of opposing the games, it was the gentry and the ruling class who were serving as patrons of the games. Games were organized between landlords with each team comprising 20 or more tenants. Wagers were commonplace with purses of up to 100 guineas. The earliest record of a recognized precursor to the modern game dates from a match in County Meath in 1670, in which catching and kicking the ball were permitted. However, even football was banned by the Severe Sunday Observance Act of 1695, which imposed a fine of 1 shilling for those caught playing sports. It proved difficult, if not impossible, for the authorities to enforce the act, and the earliest recorded intercounty match in Ireland was one between Louth and Meath at Slane in 1712, about which the poet James Dal Macaire wrote a poem of 88 verses beginning, Ba Hyajinta. A 6-a-side version was played in Dublin in the early 18th century. And 100 years later there were accounts of games played between county sides. By the early 19th century, various football games, referred to collectively as Cade, were popular in Kerry, especially the Dingle Peninsula. Father W. Ferris described 2 forms of Cade: the field game, in which the object was to put the ball through arch-like goals formed from the boughs of 2 trees, and the epic cross-country game, which lasted the whole of a Sunday and was won by taking the ball across a parish boundary. Wrestling, holding opposing players, and carrying the ball were all allowed. During the 1860s and 1870s, rugby football started to become popular in Ireland. Trinity College, Dublin was an early stronghold of rugby. and the rules of the Football Association were codified in 1863 and distributed widely. By this time, according to Gaelic football historian Jack Mahon, even in the Irish countryside, Cade had begun to give way to a rough and tumble game, which even allowed tripping. Association football started to take hold, especially in Ulster. In the 1880s, Limerick was the stronghold of the